There's 4 stages of sleep, and within one stage of sleep, paradoxical sleep, you go into REM, rapid eye movement. Rapid eye movement should be associated with loss of complete motor function. So what narcolepsy is narcolepsy is inappropriate REM bursts, such that acutely a person will go into REM sleep. So what that would mean is that the person becomes motor non-functional. They basically disassociate their spinal cord from their brainstem. So that's the time when you dream, etc. There's supposed to be a pre-REM slow wave period that goes into that REM state. In people who have narcolepsy, that doesn't occur, and in dogs that have narcolepsy, again, that doesn't occur. And it's often associated with an emotional state. So, for example, the classic case with dogs are you go to feed the dog and get them very excited about food, and all of a sudden they go into a REM phase and collapse. With failed ponies, with the babies, the foals, all you have to do is basically get between the mare and the foal will go into a REM sleep phase and collapse. With sleep deprivation in horses, which unfortunately I think many of those cases, even those that are in the literature, many of those horses that have been called narcoleptics are actually horses that really have sleep deprivation because they start to collapse. You can actually see them going through diffuse drowsiness. Some even get into slow wave sleep while they're standing, and they begin to collapse, and then they catch themselves. Well, if it were true narcolepsy, you couldn't catch yourself. That's the danger of narcolepsy in human patients, for example, is that they can literally be driving a car, and if you tell them a joke, they'll go into REM sleep, and that's the end. But with so unfortunately, again, I think what's been the problem's been is that people have misdiagnosed those two. So sleep deprivation, though, and let me go back to that. Sleep deprivation, the horses unfortunately, most people believe horses can sleep standing up, and that's not true. Horses have to spend a certain time in recumbency so that they can go through this paradoxical sleep phase during the day. Horses will REM, they should REM about a half an hour a day, and horses, unlike people, can go many days without REM before eventually it seems to accumulate, and they try to, and they will have to lay down for a period of time to kind of accumulate that amount of REM that they've received, that they need to receive. With horses that are sleep deprived, what they do is these are horses that almost invariably are horses that will not lay down for one reason or another. They stay standing, they refuse to lay down, they might be seen rolling, and in the cases of horses that roll, I think those are a behavioral issue where the horse literally won't go into REM, while it doesn't feel comfortable in its environment enough to go into REM, and so they'll roll and they feel comfortable enough to do that, but they don't go into REM because they don't want to go into that phase. You also have other horses that are painful, so they have abdominal and thoracic and limb pain, and they just don't want to lie down because of the pain that's caused when they try to either lie down or get up. And those were, when Joe Mayhew started talking about this issue, or when I saw him present it years ago, he talked mostly about those types, the ones that were pain associated. I think now with the 400 and some odd cases that I've accumulated through phone calls and a web seminar that we have basically on Equus, I have now almost 400 cases of it, and the vast majority of them are behavioral. They're horses that will get down, they will lie and roll, but they simply don't sleep. And so what's seen by the owner is that the horse is standing there, they start to go into diffuse drowsiness, they start to drop into slow wave sleep, and the horse catches themselves and stands back up again. These horses also, an interesting thing is many of these horses are not really the kindest, gentlest horses either, but when they do get treated for, or we do manage to get them to lie down, all of a sudden it really changes their attitude, whereas the horses become much more happy, it seems. They seem to want to, they ride better, they're better trail horses, they put on weight better, and that's been a common thread throughout many of the cases that we have successfully gotten to lie down. Well, the causes, as I said, that one of the causes is abdominal pain, abdominal, thoracic, or limb pain. Neck pain tends to be the ones where, because of a horse has to use so much weight and then so much inertial weight to actually get itself up, any of those areas that become very painful hinder a horse from lying down. So one of the things that I always ask an owner is that, have you seen your horse roll? If a horse hasn't been rolling, or they haven't seen the horse do the natural behavior of rolling, then I'm more suspicious that it's a pain associated than a behavioral associated. The behavioral associated cases are horses that are just not happy in their environment. And I've seen cases from horses that wear show blankets, and if they took the show blankets off, the horses will lie down and sleep. I've seen horses that I don't want to make this, because I know how these things go, power lines, near high tension power lines where that constant buzzing seemed to be a problem. If you just moved them off the property, the horses began to lay down and sleep and stop that type of behavior. Another group of horses, which I think is getting bigger and bigger all the time, are the gelding groups. So what you'll have is a group of geldings, and then one gelding begins to have this disorder. What pretty much invariably happens with those horses is they feel like they need to be the dominant horse. It's almost like they're confused. They believe that they're the dominant mare in a herd. And so they try to assert their dominance literally 24 hours a day on these other horses. And we've seen those, and how we cure those is we bring in a mare who is literally abusive to the gelding for a period of time to put the gelding in his own place. And once he's in that place, they sleep. And it's pretty astounding how many cases now. I thought that was just an aberration, but now looking back on my own data, I found that many of these horses, geldings, are well overrepresented. About 80% of them are geldings. Many of them are horses that either are by themselves, so you can imagine by yourself, a horse that's a herd animal, that's a prey animal, does not want to lie down in a pasture totally by himself without knowing that there's a sentinel present. And so they do it. And then the others are groups of geldings, 4 or 5, where one horse tries to be the dominant horse all the time and is generally called the nasty horse, the biter. He beats up on the other horses, etc. And what he's doing is they're actually responding to this confused behavioral response, probably associated with lack of testosterone and other changes that occur with castration. So how you take care of them is you bring in, I kind of call it the dominatrix syndrome. You bring in the dominant mare who literally dominates the heck out of this horse, puts him in his place, and now the horse feels comfortable that the herd has been reestablished, I think, is what's happening. So they go from a small group that are pain related to a very large group that are behavioral. And there's even been some horses where a traumatic episode was seen to start the whole issue. So for example, fireworks. When the horse has never been near fireworks, a really bad trailer accident. There seems to be some of these issues that occur that almost like almost like a post-traumatic stress on some of these horses to have that type of exposure. Originally, I thought a number of these horses were just horses that were removed from a herd. So they were with a whole group of horses and now taken by themselves. And that does happen. Another group of horses are literally stalls that are too small, shapes of stalls that aren't correct for the horse to feel really comfortable. And sometimes it's almost impossible to diagnose. And we have tried some therapies, some drugs, to try to reduce the anxiety in these horses. Fluphenazine has been useful. You have to be careful using fluphenazine because of the possible seizure-like episodes that you get with it. It's actually a motor issue, but you get with fluphenazine, that has been useful in some of the cases, but if you don't really look at the environment and you just use fluphenazine, I think nothing will happen. If you've taken care of the environment and then use fluphenazine, you might get an effect. But that's what I don't want people to do, is to say, oh, this horse has what bertone thinks is sleep deprivation, let's just give it fluphenazine, when you have so many other issues to deal with in the environment. And sometimes it's very, very subtle, really subtle.